everyone, it's Lainey. Welcome back to Crafted by Lucas. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to create magnetic bookmarks out of magnetic sheets. So something different than I've been seeing trending online. Most of the magnetic bookmarks I've seen are just using little magnets. So this is going to be very different for you guys. I hope it is helpful and inspirational to you. I'll just give you a little sneak peek before we dive into the tutorial. These are two of the bookmarks that I've made thus far, and I will show you how I made the display card. I think this is really cute and perfect if you want to sell them. So I'll give you some inspiration behind different display cards as well. But they are dual-sided, vibrant in color, and they align. So I'll show you some tips and tricks on how to choose any design in Design Space or create your own design and have them line up so they can be dual-sided as well. So give this video a thumbs up if you're excited. I know I am. It also really supports my channel, so I appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new so you don't miss out on future content, and let's get started.
Okay guys, so here we are in Cricut Design Space. This is the canvas. These are the two bookmarks that I just showed you, but I pulled some other images from Design Space that we're going to work on. The printable material is an 8.5 by 11 printable magnetic sheet. So I want to make sure that I fill up that sheet so I don't waste any material. So I'm going to keep these bows there, and let's just work on this little mushroom here. I'm going to minimize my screen just so y'all can see a bit better. And I'm going to move this mushroom right over here. We'll talk about sizing in a moment. This is our mushroom. I'm going to select Control D on my keyboard to duplicate it. You can also select this square with the plus sign to duplicate your layer as well. With that duplicated layer, I'm going to align it on top of the other one and then go straight to the toolbar and flip this vertically. And that is very important. So now when this is folded, it is going to align perfectly. And then you'll have that dual design on the front and the back. So now that we have that flipped vertically, now we need to connect these two pieces. So I'm going to do that by going over to Shapes and just selecting a rectangle. I'm going to collapse the shapes and bring this down over here. Okay, so now we have our shape. I'm going to go ahead and change it from a basic cut to a print then cut, because this is all going to be printed out with my inkjet printer and then cut out with my Cricut machine. And I'm going to reposition this, and we'll worry about color in a moment. I'm going to reposition this. I'm going to go to the top toolbar under the sizing and press unlock. I just clicked on that lock and it just unlocked it. So now I can manipulate this a bit more to size it a little bit better. Okay, so I think that that is a pretty good size. And now I'm going to select all three and we are going to align them horizontally. And that is really important as well. So two important takeaways so far is to flip it vertically and then align it horizontally. And now we've got to work with this connector piece here. Let's go ahead and click on this and send it to the back. So now it is sent to the back, and now I want to change this color, because if we printed this off right now, it would be gray. And you can change it to a white. This is a kind of like a cream color. So I want to see if I can find a cream. I'm going to click on this orange and then toggle over to the creams. Let's see if we can get one that matches. And if not, we can just do white. Okay, so I think I like that color. So now I'm going to select all three layers. One layer is a mushroom, one layer is this connector piece, and the third layer is the other mushroom. And I want to create an offset just to create a little bit more of a margin around that entire piece. And you can see that it populated right here with this blue line. I don't want it that thick, so I'm going to toggle to the left to minimize that. And I'm going to go a little bit more here. And I like how that looks, so I'm going to apply. And now I'm going to change that color as well, because it will print off like that. And let's change it to that cream color. How cute. So to see that color a bit better, let me change my canvas. I'm going to change that by going to the bottom of my layers panel on the right hand side, and I'm going to click blank canvas. Once this is clicked, this becomes gray and your toolbar changes. And now you can change the grid. And so now my grid is changed to a gray, and now you can see that cream color there for the mushroom. So let's go ahead and select all three of these layers. I'm going to attach those together so none of that shifts. And then I'm going to flatten it because it's a print then cut. Always make sure to flatten your image for a print then cut so it actually cuts along this outside edge here instead of trying to cut these little circles out of the mushrooms and things like that. So we've got this one done, but it's sized quite large. So I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and move these over. Now I'm using these over here that I've already made as a size reference because the size matters with this magnetic material. It is a thin material. So if you go too small, it's going to have a hard time sticking to itself. So I recommend no smaller than about 1.5 inches wide. So these bows here are 1.5 inches wide and about 4 inches long. So something very similar to that sizing I recommend for these bookmarks. So I want to size this down, and sizing it that way makes it too small. So I'm going to bring that back in and I'm going to unlock this so I can bring in the shapes a little bit differently. Okay. And I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger just because of the design. This one right now is measuring at 1.81 by 4.52. So let's go ahead and leave that one as is. Let's make one more on camera. This here is a basic cut from Cricut Design Space. You can see it's got the golfer and it's the operation type says basic cut right there. Let's go ahead and change this to a print then cut. And you can see that it's changed a bit. I'm going to move this down. So same process. We made sure that this was a print then cut image. It is. Now we need to duplicate it. Control D on my keyboard. Move that layer up. Now go to the top toolbar and flip it vertically. And now let's bring in shapes. I'm going to come back in with that rectangle shape and do the same thing. Let's make sure that that shape is a print then cut. I want that to print out in white, so I'm changing that color as well. And let's bring this in. This is going to be the band that connects those two pieces. So let's make this smaller and send it to the back so it prints behind the design. And you can see for this design, it's a little different. There's a cutout there. So we're definitely going to create an offset to fill in that. Printing it on white paper, it would, this would be white instead of gray, but I'm going to create an offset regardless. So I'm going to select all 3 of these layers. Actually, first, before we click offset, let's align it. Center horizontal. And now that it is aligned, now let's create that offset. And I want to make sure that the offset is all around our character. So at first it had an offset in the middle here. I had to widen the offset so that was reduced because that would be a little cut. So let's go ahead and select apply. And now let's change that color to white because I want it to print in white. And how neat is that, guys? So once again, let's attach it and flatten it because it's a print then cut. And then I will size this down to at least 1.5 inches by about 4 inches. So lastly here, I've got this print then cut succulent from Design Space, and I will make this a little bit bigger for you guys. So it's already got that white offset layer there. You could add an additional one if you wanted. I'm not going to. I just wanted to make sure that this is prepared for me to print then cut. So our operations states that it is a print then cut. My image is clicked on and there's no flatten button available. So it is prepared for us. So I'm going to place that right there. So I'm going to go ahead and select make it, and it's going to go to the mat and it's going to reposition all of these here. Okay. So everything is ready. So let's go ahead and click make it. So here you can see that it's shifted some things around and it's saying that not everything will fit on this sheet. So what you can do is, like I said, create the template and have it all permanent before you get to this screen, or you can manipulate things in this screen. Just remember that you created an offset, so you still want to leave room for your offset to be cut, but some of these can be shifted around and moved. And I'm going to go to mat 2 and let's move this succulent over. I'm going to click on these 3 dots here and move this object. And now I can select the mat. I'm going to select that first mat and Yeah, we don't have enough room. So what I think I want to do, let's cancel. And since I already have these two cut out, I'm going to hide these. So let's see how this looks. And move it down. Okay, so this here is mimicking our cutting mat, and then this is essentially our 8.5 by 11 magnetic sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and select continue. We no longer have anything on mat 2, so that just disappeared. I'm using my Cricut Maker 3 today, so my machine is going to pair up via Bluetooth. And I need to send this design to my printer. So this is the first screen that pops up. This is about the sensor marks, those black marks there. So I'm going to go ahead and select next. And this is important, I think, for better print quality, regardless of your printer. You know, everyone's just using an inkjet printer for this material. I always like to enhance the color. So I turn bleed off for this, and I'm going to use the system dialog and then select print. And then my preferences are going to pop up, and your preferences may look a little different, but what we are changing is the quality of the print. We're going to change it from standard to high, so we make sure those colors are really vibrant and saturated. So here we've got our preferences, and under quality, I'm going to change that to high, and then select OK, and then select print. So what I recommend is doing a test print on regular copy paper, and you can go a step further with that copy paper and do a test cut as well. So definitely recommend doing that so you don't waste material. So I'm going to load my printer with my 8.5 by 11 magnetic sheet and get this printed out.
All right, so it has printed off here, and this is the sensor mark that I was referring to. This needs to go in the top left corner of the mat. So this is the right facing up. You are just letting your Cricut know where all these designs are and how they should be cut. So I have laid that down on my standard grip mat. I'm going to use my brayer tool to get this pressed down. And I'm using this instead of my hands because this is white. I don't want to get any debris or anything on it or smudge any ink. Okay, so first thing is verify print quality. Everything printed great and the registration marks are there and visible. So I'm going to select done. So for the next step, we need to select our material. And since I'm using the Cricut Maker 3, it actually has magnetic material available. So I'm going to browse all materials. So I just typed in magnetic in the search engine and 3 results pop up. Magnetic sheet for 0.5 millimeters, magnetic sheet for 1 millimeter, or printable magnetic sheet. I'm going to go ahead and select the printable magnetic sheet and select done. And I'm going to go ahead, just as a precaution, I'm going to go ahead and change the pressure to more. So I'm going to load my mat and press these arrows there. And now, normal process, it's going to register everything. And then once it's registered, I will press play and the cutting will begin. I will, of course, monitor it and pause it if I need to. All right, so the cutting is done, but before I unload my mat, I want to make sure it's cut all the way through. Because I did use a different setting this time, I used the printable magnetic sheet instead of the magnetic sheet 1 millimeter. For my test one, I used that and it worked, it cut all the way through, but I'm going to pick up my sheet and you can see that it did not cut all the way through. So I'm going to lay that back down and get that pressed back down. And I'm going to go ahead and select play again. So this will run through another cut. And hopefully that time it will cut all the way through that magnetic sheet. So just the one. That's really odd. Let me see if I can poke it through. Okay. Perfect. So looking these over, I will say that I think I like this setting better than the magnetic sheet, even though it needed to be run through more than once and, you know, set the pressure to more, because the other material settings are just for magnetic sheets. So it's not considering this soft material here. That's basically like a printable vinyl on top of a magnetic sheet. So it's a lot softer of a cut. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a bit so y'all can see better and bring these in the frame. Okay, So takeaways, these are some of the ones that I had already made, and this is 80-pound cardstock, so you can see that they are strong enough to go through the 80-pound, but only if they're sized accordingly. I first started out with something small. This is about 1 inch wide and about 3 3/4 inches tall, and it is too small for it to stay together. So the measurements that I made for these are pretty spot on. Another thing that I learned was the connector band. Make that thinner as well so it can fold easier and then stay together. So your main design, make it larger to really have enough magnet to stay together and stay on your paper, but a thinner connector piece to help them stay connected and then stay flat. Something else that you would want to do if you wanted to sell these is after you have them all cut out, you fold them, and then I would recommend pressing them. I pressed these under, heavy books, and I just left them like that overnight. But I don't think it would take that long, but I definitely would recommend pressing them. As you can see with these here, these are quite flat. So these sizes and the bands are perfect. So what you want to do is just, line up your design to make sure that it is in place, and then fold or crease your connector piece there. And at this point, I would just want to lay it under something flat for the entire surface area to get pressed and flattened down so it will make a nice bookmark. So a couple other things to touch on. These, not just for bookmarks, but you can make any type of magnets. These are all personalized. These two are my dogs, and this is my friend's. Actually, these two dogs have passed away since, but these are pictures that I have photoshopped, and you could see that I added a little detail to him. So this is just another way you can get creative and personalize things for others. I think that that is really, really important when you're thinking about selling things, because people really like things that are personal to them or personal for others. And this is just a nice magnet as well. And you could go in so many different directions with magnets. So I need to finish folding these and getting these pressed so they'll stay together a bit better. But some takeaways here. Definitely be attentive of the material. This is a printable vinyl on top of a magnetic sheet. So you need to make sure that you're selecting the right material settings for your printer. Also, I would make sure that your blade is nice and clean and probably new or newer, so it just doesn't snag this vinyl material on top. Now, another way that you could make these a little more durable is to add a cover to them. If you wanted to make them more like waterproof or water resistant, you could add, what is it called? So the brand is Avery, and these are laminating sheets. So if you wanted to make sure that this ink didn't get damaged, then you would want to put your laminating sheet on top, and you would do this step before the cutting process. So if you did choose to add this step, you would add this step after these printed off the printer, and you would just lay it down on the entire magnetic sheet. You would peel this back and lay it down and squeegee it down, and then cut it through your machine, and so it would cut through this laminating sheet and your magnetic sheet together. So an option there, and I will leave this in the description box below. These work great for stickers as well, and like I said, they're just Avery laminating sheets. So if you have any questions about anything or need more clarification, be sure to leave a comment down below. Be sure to check the description box. I will put the rough measurements for the bookmarks down below as well. And now let's work on this card piece. So let's jump back in Cricut Design Space, and I'll show you how to get this cut out. This is super easy and quick.
Okay, so let me show you how I made this real quick. I'm going to go over to Shapes and grab a square, and I'm going to size this the same size. So what is this, 4 by 3.5? So I'm going to go up here and type in 4. I need to unlock this by 3.5, press enter. Now it is size. I'm going to lock that in place. And now I'm going to come back into the shapes and just grab this rectangle here. And let's move it below. And I'm going to unlock this shape so I can manipulate it like this. And I'm going to create this longer rectangle piece here. And let's bring this over. I made it way too long. And I don't need it that thick either, so I'm making it a little bit thinner. So I'm going to place that right there. I think I like the thickness of that, so I'm going to make sure both of those layers are selected and go over to the layers panel on the bottom and select slice. Takes a second for it to populate, but you can see there's slice results now in the layers panel. I am going to go over and remove those slice results, and now I've got the cutout, and I can just select these and delete those. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this one because I've resized these. So now I'm going to move that one up, and I'm going to select Control D on my keyboard to duplicate this. So let me go ahead and bring in this piece here. This says magnetic bookmarks. This is just an option for you guys if you wanted to do a print then cut. I'm going to change this to a print then cut real quick. And let's go ahead and change the color. Let's just change it to white for visual purposes. So if you wanted to create something like this, well, okay, so I had to change the arrangement so you could see the magnetic bookmark text. I had to send this to the front, but this is just an example for you guys. You could add your logo on here or a pattern. So if you wanted to maybe print then cut this, you could size things a little differently so you could maximize an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. But I just wanted to give y'all a little idea on how to really elevate your magnetic bookmark card holders. So many options there for you to look into, but for this video, I'm just going to use white cardstock and I'm going to run it through my Cricut machine. So we've got these two here. So let's go ahead and select Make It. So this first mat here is the text, so I don't need that. So I'm going to go down to mat 2, and this is what I want. I'm going to move this card down here so I can place an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock on my mat and have this cut out. So let's go ahead and continue. And then I'll switch to the overhead camera and you'll watch me load my mat, and then you'll see how the Cricut machine cuts this out. Okay, so I have 80-pound cardstock here, and I am just going to align this on my mat. This mat is not very sticky. That's why I'm okay with sticking paper to it. It's not going to rip. So I'm going to load my mat and press go, and then I will bring in the materials that I used and the magnets that have been pressed. But this is super quick, and like I said, you could go so many different ways with this, or you could even just load colored cardstock on here and just cut out colored cardstock instead, and you don't have to worry about any text. But let's get these cut out. Okay, so that is done. I'm going to unload my mat and turn this over and bend my mat away from my paper so my paper doesn't get bent up. And let's just put that there for now. And I just selected 80-pound cardstock in Design Space. And this is the sliced result there. This is not cut very well. And you don't have to do this part. This is optional. You could just cut out little cards and have your magnets displayed like so. You could have your magnets up at the top and maybe your business logo or some kind of title here or design, whatever you wanted. You don't necessarily have to have the slit. I just like how that looks. And I think if you had magnetic bookmarks up here and maybe printed some nice design on this, that would be really nice. And you could change it up based on the theme of your magnets and so on and so forth. Okay guys, so this is them after being pressed just for about 20 minutes. So it doesn't take very long. I just recommend pressing them so they really look flush and more professional. But these are the designs. You can see the quality there. Just remember to check your blade. Make sure your blade is nice and ready to cut a material like this. And remember to choose the correct settings. If you want to protect this, you can use a laminate sheet. Remember, those are Avery. And to bring this all together, we used magnetic printable sticker vinyl from Teckwrap. It comes in a 10 pack.
and it is a little less than an 8.5 by 11, but really close. And they just come in this sleeve here, and this is just printable vinyl, and then the back is the magnetic sheet. And you could go even further with this by getting different laminates, maybe like shimmer laminates and things like that, to really elevate your design or your products that you may be selling. And I love how the magnets turned out as well. All right, guys, so this is it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next Card or Craft. Bye, everyone.